So one of the benefits of having, to a close approximation, zero audience for my music is, I'm much less tied to the initial version of things that might be out there floating around. It gives me a lot more flexibility to go back and tinker with things that I had thought at one point were finished, that I had presented to the world as finished, in the hope that, maybe if eventually I do something that does get a few fans, then if they go back and revisit the earlier things, then they'll find something there that's as worthwhile as possible. Now, my first album, The Long Now, that was originally created as a set of demos, right, with the idea of finding musicians locally to help flesh them out into full songs. It was really the point where, in early 2015, I had started trying to learn piano in a more kind of systematic way and write things from piano. Once I had the songs, it took, I think, 2.5, 3 years to really kind of have a set of songs that I felt good about. Once I did, I put those demos up on Craigslist. I tried trying to, see if I could get anybody locally who wanted to start a band to arrange them in a more kind of full way, and just didn't find anybody who wanted to do that, at least who would reliably participate. So after a while, after trying that for a while, I hired somebody to mix the tracks to make them sound a bit more appealing, and I liked the result well enough that I made some CDs and gave them to a few friends. Nobody was really that impressed or seemed to care all that much, but, I'd spent my whole life wanting to make that kind of music, and, it was really the first time that I felt like I could, with a little bit of confidence, sort of make moody, atmospheric, emotional, prog-inflected rock on my own. And, I think there were many things I liked about it, while also recognizing a lot of room for improvement. And yeah, so I just kind of kept doing it, and that takes us up to the present. So when I got done with my last album, Love Among the Ruins, I went back and I listened to The Long Now, and I thought, some of the writing here is compelling. I'm fond of some of these songs, but this does, despite my kind of insistence otherwise at the time, it does feel like a set of demos that somebody arbitrarily decided was going to be called and presented as an album. The arrangements a lot of the time are just, some programmed drums and one or two layers of piano and keys, not really anything else, right? The timing of the playing is often a little bit wobbly or awkward. Whatever virtues are present in the writing probably will be unintelligible to a lot of listeners. So I started writing these songs in early 2015. I gave everybody the finished album in mid-2018. And, since then I've got a lot better at making albums. I've gotten a lot better at music production. And I realized I could whip up a much more professional sounding version with reasonable time and effort and expense. And, so I thought, well, fuck it, I'll go ahead and do that. Now, I'm kind of sneaking this one in under the radar, as opposed to my last album where, I jumped up and down and waved my arms, and it still kind of went under the radar. I'm just, for various reasons, I'm not going to put it on streaming. I'm going to leave it exclusive to Bandcamp. I have put together, though, a few music videos for this channel, which you'll see over the next few weeks. The videos for the re-recorded tracks, honestly, they're pretty amateurish, right? My level of video production experience and skill doesn't really go any further than this YouTube channel, which is, for all intents and purposes, basically a podcast. In the last few years, my music has kind of entered this twilight world where I'm attempting to treat it more and more like a serious professional thing, while not receiving any of the financial or psychological rewards of actually being professional, right? So the result is that albums take years and a large percentage of my disposable income to make. Everything feels more like a slog, less like something that I'm doing for fun. And this revamp, this re-recording of The Long Now really was meant to be just an opportunity to step out of that and spend some time back in the old model where tasks were of manageable complexity, and I enjoyed doing them. So in the video content for these songs, I've tried to kind of have some of that same spirit, let go of the expectation of quality or meaning, and really just sort of have fun putting something together. I found that the process of going back through these old songs rebuilding them up in better versions. It was very soothing. It was very immersive. It was kind of a thing to hide in, right? It was fun and easy. It felt a bit like spending a year doing, I don't know, like college level trigonometry, and then like going back and, solving some of your old Algebra 1 equations from high school just to kind of like um, have something fun to blast through, right? Now, from a writing standpoint, there's stuff in that album that I wouldn't do the same way now, right? Some of the lyrics are simpler and maybe less creatively phrased than I would try to make them now. There are times when maybe I couldn't come up with anything meaningful to say and just, put some crap down to fill the space, which I try not to do anymore. Never say never, though. Um, some of the melodies and riffs are kind of pedestrian, not that complicated or unusual. Some of the songs just sort of feel like pre-existing bits that were pasted together. They don't always flow as unified compositions in ways that I would try to be more thoughtful about now. But I've mostly left those issues alone, right? Because I feel like um, preserving some of the naive songwriting choices is a way of distinguishing my albums from each other. I've done some significant level of revision to, previous versions of the first three albums already. There's definitely still major room for improvement in the second, if I had the time and the budget. And even the fourth, actually, there's some things that I kind of wish I could change now. Because all these albums have, as a result of that, almost kind of been made in parallel with each other over the same 9-year span, I do run the risk of my catalog kind of gradually becoming one big 5-disc album, right? Because, as the production has changed, it does kind of bring the sound of them more in line with each other. And, one way of avoiding that effect, I think, is for this first album to leave some of those naive songwriting choices intact. That being said, there are definitely places where in 2018 I knew that I wanted to have a much bigger or fuller arrangement, or I wanted to do kind of a more elaborate version of what I was doing, but I just didn't have the skills and the resources and the knowledge at that point to know how to even kind of at all simulate what I was going for. And in those places, I definitely have, allowed the songs to exist more in the form that I had in mind at the time. The old versions do have kind of a naive charm to them. I'm really glad that they exist and that I've held on to them in a folder somewhere in my computer, at least, If I were the sort of artist who had deluxe box sets or big reissues, I think this early 2018 version would be a lot of fun to include in one of those deluxe box sets. But, while those early versions have charm, I definitely don't want them to stand as the definitive versions of these songs, and I'm glad that now they don't have to. Anyway, if you purchase the Long Now on Bandcamp currently, it is now the updated version, right? So if those clips really made you salivate, then it's there waiting for you. There are 3 videos coming to this channel for songs from that album over the next few months, plus some bonus videos where I talk about the songs, which, those are always good for 30 views or so. Anyway, thanks for listening, and, have a good day.